Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Narrative Control Podcast. I'm here again with my friend Rob Henderson. We are going to talk about the second half or the second 40% of I think, Yellowjackets, the last four episodes after we've talked about the first six in our last discussion. And so, yeah, Rob, how you doing?
I'm good, Richard, other than my recovery from COVID. I'm
Yeah.
about 7 IQ points dumber than usual, so we'll see how this
Uh,
goes. But yeah, I got COVID last week, and today, I feel like I'm probably 90%, but I can definitely feel it. It's harder for me to concentrate for long periods, and yeah, who knows, man? The Chinese, they cook this up in a lab. Who knows the
mm.
long term effects?
Is this the first time you got it?
Yeah, it's the first time. I whatever. Just haven't had anything like this before, and at least since the pandemic rolled out. Yeah, this is the first time I've really been sick.
Hmm. Yeah. So I've
Did
never
you have
had
it? Did you get COVID?
I don't believe so. I had like a cold that could have been COVID at some point or another. I'm philosophically against testing, and so I won't test. I think we shouldn't be taking
Okay.
any COVID precautions except for vaccines. I believe strongly in vaccines. You are also vaccinated to the chagrin of many of your Twitter followers and to the chagrin of my
Yeah.
followers. When I talk about
It
vax
would have been
status,
much worse.
yes,
It would have
they're
been much
like,
worse if
oh,
I hadn't been vaccinated.
I saw some replies. Oh yeah, you love Big Brother. Oh, I would have been worse. Thank you, vaccine.
I didn't even do it for any political or even
No,
health related reasons. I did
of
it
course
purely
you
for
didn't.
self convenience. I
Ah,
did it because I thought and there were a couple of times where I traveled where it did make my life like 5% easier, but I don't know. I mean,
well,
whatever.
I have friends who didn't get vaxxed and then got COVID, and they're in much worse shape than they were in much worse shape than you are. I mean, some of them are in really
Yeah,
really bad shape. So it makes sense. I don't know anyone who had a bad
I'm getting
reaction.
3 boosters after this just to be extra cautious. I don't
No,
want anyone else
the
to
disease
be
is a
in
good.
danger.
Yeah, the disease is a good booster. Yeah, I've gotten two, and then I got the two vaccines, and then a different kind of booster, just to mix and match for fun. Um, and yeah, it would be good, like your immunity is going to wane, and like
Yeah.
I don't even know what the legal I don't even know if you're like legally like that they're approved to have like fourth, fifth, and sixth. Like they should. I think like what smart people say is they should just let you get boosted as much as you want. I mean, the vaccine is going to just it'll give you again immunity again, and it's not gonna it's not gonna have bad side effects, and it's probably better than getting COVID at any time. So you should probably be getting it every 6 months to a year. I don't think that's even improved. I think they're just basically the government has basically just given up on this stuff. Um,
Yeah.
and,
I mean,
so
it's yeah. I mean, I think I had a pretty like so when I took the test, the lines on my the cartridge were extremely bold, and I read that the bold lines indicate a heavier viral load. So I think I got a pretty bad
uh,
dosage of it or whatever. Yeah, it hit me pretty hard. I mean, the first day I had it, all I could do was lay down and listen to podcasts. I couldn't even watch TV. But then after that, the next day I was like more or less okay, and then I was able to walk around again. But yeah, the first day that it hit me, it was pretty rough.
yeah,
And yeah, I definitely feel like mentally like foggier, slower. When I'm writing, it's like a little bit more difficult for me to form sentences, and yeah. So I'm
yeah.
wondering how long this is going to be lingering.
Yeah, so I'm looking at the Mayo Clinic website. There's a single booster dose is recommended for people 5 and older. People are looking at a single booster if you're being blah 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 blah. That's different ones, but anyways, second booster dose is recommended for people with weakened immune system and 50 or older. So they're not recommending. The government is not even recommending a second booster. So they just, I mean, the goal is, you're on your own. You get your one booster. You get one booster in your life, and then you go out for the next 50 years, and you just keep getting COVID
Yeah.
again and again. It's like if you prove one booster, like
Yeah,
I
I mean
think
it's a little obnoxious. I'm traveling to Paris on. Well, I'm meant to travel on Saturday, and so France still requires a negative COVID test to enter the country.
uh,
And so I am like a little bit concerned that I mean by then it'll have been 10 days. But it's possible. I'll still get a positive result, and that'll throw my plans into disarray. But it's a very deadly illness, and these gotta secure their borders from the China virus. So
Is France
yeah.
is France when they want you to be vaccinated, I'm sure, coming in, right? And they require the booster too?
I don't think they care if you're vaccinated. I think they just
No?
want you to be. Oh, I don't know. That's a
I'd be
good question.
surprised
I
if they
think they may actually need some. No, no, no. So I think they want you to have the vaccination, but if your last booster was more than 9 months ago, then they require you to have a negative COVID test within 24 hours of entering the country.
uh
If you do have the booster and it's been within 9 months, then I think you need to take it within 3 days of entering the country. So they have all these as a rule, depending on how recently you've been. Yeah, I think my last shot. I mean, I just got the two, the standard 2 doses back in July or something last year.
Mm,
Uh, so that was a year ago, literally. And yeah, I haven't been boosted or anything since. So yeah, I needed to take a test.
yeah.
A little
So,
annoying.
yeah. So this is going to be like a yearly. Yeah, this is going to be a yearly thing for. This is just going to be like everyone is forever for every 6 months to a year. Like they could eventually get the vaccine thing figured out, but they won't. I mean, the people there's too much resistance to vaccine. It seems I blame the public. I mean, more than the
I think the
government.
U.S. that's true. Although to be fair, I haven't actually taken a close look at the data on compliance rates in the UK or in Europe. But my
Well, there
my
was a New
feeling
York
is
Times
that it
article a
just never
while ago.
became politicized here.
Yeah, there was a New York Times article I go that's particularly for old people, like young people in a lot of places wouldn't get vaccinated, but the US was like the only developed country with a lot of old people who refuse to be vaccinated. And so they're all watching cable news and listening to talk radio. And basically, yeah. So this is why the US had a higher death rate. I think the US had a higher, I don't know if that helped. The last time there was a huge death
I
discrepancy.
mean, did they? I don't know. Do you know if they controlled for our much worse obesity problem, and then even of our obese people, they're actually fatter than the obese people everywhere else? Like
Well,
Europe has
yeah.
fat people too, but our fat people put them to shame.
So here's an interesting thing. So yeah, I haven't looked at actually U.S. versus other countries per capita death rate and controls and all that. A lot of this stuff is random. But you look at the first year of COVID before vaccines were available, there was no difference between red and blue states in how many people died. And then once vaccines became available, then you see a split where like every red state is killing as a lot more people are dying than every blue state, and that's
Yeah,
basically that's the vaccine difference. And you can look at like the county level. There's been good stuff in the New York Times about this. So yeah, it's if you're old, it's a good idea to get vaccinated. Now maybe there's some countries out there that have had worse results, but it's like it's complicated. As Philippe shows, like you can have two countries that are right next to each other, don't have much different policies, and one will have a much higher death rate than the
yeah.
other. So the cross
I mean,
national
I
comparison.
understood some of the skepticism around it, but I saw sane countries, rolling out the Like, if you see Japan and Singapore, like, taking the vaccines, it's like this is probably fine,
Yeah, but I
right?
wouldn't. I wouldn't. Yeah,
If
those
it was
countries are.
just Americans and just our government, be like, you need to take the vaccine, and everywhere else in the world is like, we're not doing that, then I'd be like, yeah, our government's trying to kill us, but
Yeah.
everyone else was doing it too.
Yeah,
So
I wouldn't look at Japan and Singapore for what's sane because those places are doing like masks forever. Apparently, like they're never gonna stop,
yeah,
and so
but I mean,
they don't.
Asians, they like the masks over there anyway.
Yeah, so I don't know if they're sane. They might be insane on these things. But all right, yeah. So
Well, in
it's been
terms of
how
the
many
science,
days?
right? In terms of the vaccine science.
How many days have you been with COVID?
This is day 9 now. Yeah, I'm definitely dumber, man. It's
Mm.
the fog is real, but
Yeah, I have a
I
podcast with
wanted to
Mike.
get this done now because I was worried that if too much time passed, I'd forget what happened in the show.
Oh
I don't know
no.
if I'm going to get dumber in the meantime or what's going on, but I'm like, I still remember what happened in the show. It was a good show. I remember it. So, now's as
Yeah,
good a time as any
I
to.
was, I also have a podcast with Mike Tracy weekly, and I'm going to have one tonight. And we've also had to schedule that around COVID too. So he's also got COVID. So both of you guys this week, ironically enough. Hope I'm not revealing it.
Yeah,
I'm sure
it's going around. I think it's the
Mike
summertime,
Tracy.
man.
Yeah, he's not. I'm sure he's telling people. Yeah, I think he has told people. Sometimes I don't think I'm
you
revealing
want
the
to you
secret.
want to keep it a secret?
No, he doesn't keep any personal secrets. I think Mike Tracy likes to be out there. So
All right.
okay, cool. So we should do a COVID podcast at some point. But for now, we are here to talk about Yellowjackets, episodes 7, 8, 9,
7
10.
through to 10, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. There's
and
10
and
episodes. shows are getting weird now. I just finished watching Severance, so like my whatever. I haven't been able to work that much, so I just finished. Severance only had 9 episodes in their first season. I'm like, so now shows are just doing whatever they want. Some shows have 6 episodes. Some shows do like 8 episode seasons.
Mm.
Yellowjackets has 10. Severance has 9.
You know,
It's just
we should talk about Severance because I was in a group chat and we were deciding what show to watch, and then Severance was like what everyone wanted to watch, and I watched the first episode and I hated it, and I
oh
have
really?
very
I
philosophical
liked it.
reasons for hating it.
Yeah.
I don't think it's supposed to be a psychological thriller. I don't think anyone would agree to the procedure.
Psychological
I think
thriller.
I don't think it's realistic in accord with human. I don't think anyone would create another version of
Well,
themselves
the
that is
people. Well, I
permanently
mean, yeah,
broken.
this will have to be this will have to be a separate discussion. But the people that they had, I don't know. I thought it was plausible. I mean, it was stretching the truth, but the people involved, especially like as you progress and find out the backstories of each character, it almost kind of makes sense, like why you would choose to just forget about who you are for a certain period of time each day. Um, but
That's
yeah,
a
that's
terrible.
we can talk about that later. So anyway, Yellow Jackets, 10 episodes. We watched
Yeah. So what
the
did you
last four.
I thought it was good at the beginning. I thought it got better.
I thought
I
it was, yeah. I thought they stuck the landing for the most part. I kind of hoped that we would get a little bit more information about, because it opens the pilot episode of Yellow Jackets. It opens with the girls are chasing someone,
mm.
and then you see who we learn is Misty, like eating this meat, and you just assume, okay, so they've turned into cannibals, and we never really see like who that girl was, or you never really see the cannibal scenes, right? You never really see
But you
them do
wanted all
that.
that at once. It's season one. I mean, there was a lot. Yeah. So if this was only a one season show, that would be okay. But they were hoping for a season two and a season three. And we're going to get a season two at least. So I mean,
Yeah,
there was a lot that was mysterious that was solved, like um, like the storyline with that guy supposedly
with
what
Jeff.
he was Jeff, uh, the art student guy, like what he
Yeah, I
was
want to make sure
about.
that's right. Yeah.
Um,
Oh
the
yeah,
woman,
yeah. So Adam, right? We learned like Adam was nobody, right? Like he was nobody interesting or important, really. He
he
was
just
just some
wanted a
dude who
mojito.
he was. Yeah, well, yeah, right. So that was just apparently just a coincidence, and he had no
Unsatisfying.
connection to the plot. And he, like a guy like that, was legitimately just interested in a very plain looking middle aged woman without any ulterior motive. Did that make sense?
Men have strange tastes sometimes. She maybe like she's not that. She's okay, I guess, for her age, and he might whatever. I don't know. He might enjoy it for his own reasons, but
Well, he did know that she was a celebrity, kind of, right? Like he
yeah.
had the comic books or whatever about like her flight crash, and he knew who she was. So maybe that he got some kind of
Ugh.
some kind of excitement
Comic
from
book? Was it
that.
comic books or was it like a news article thing?
I thought it was like a comic thing.
Uh,
Was
uh,
it? Maybe one of the viewers can chime in. I remember it being like when she opened the drawer or something as she confronts him. Um, yeah,
yeah.
because she thought that he was. She saw the glitter in the closet,
Yes.
and he was
That
in the
was clever.
closet,
Yeah.
and so he just assumed that he was the one who was blackmailing them. And she's like, who are you really? What do you want? And she's like snooping around and opens those drawers, and there was like I thought it was a comic book or something like that about the crash landing.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
but I
Well,
don't
either
know.
way,
Uh,
it's
yeah,
yeah.
not particularly important, but yeah. So then what? Like she freaks out on him and stabs him, and it's a little
Yeah.
unexpected, I guess. I mean, it was more unexpected that he was a nobody. I thought he was going to be so that I was looking around online. There were these rumors on Reddit that Adam was actually Javi, the younger boy, the little brother of I always forget the older guy's
Yeah,
name,
Hobby.
and
We don't
like
see Hobby. That's right. We don't know what happened to him. That's
yeah.
right. Yeah.
And so it's like, oh, Adam's really Javi, and he's trying to figure out something about Shauna. It's like I don't think that was him. He was just random dude who wanted to hook up with Shauna, and the glitter turned out to be Jeff, which I found that was a nice little twist.
Yeah, I wasn't really keeping with Jeff's character. He seems like a pretty normal guy without any of this stuff. I don't know, but the furniture trade. I guess the furniture business is tough, and you got in with some some bad actors. Yeah, it's unsad. It was sad. Like I liked the I sort of liked it. I liked everything about it. I liked the twist that it was Jeff rather than Ed, but I did not like the. It was too big of a coincidence. The hotel thing, where he goes, I just want, I want this place has the best mojitos. Let's sit down and have a drink. I liked it. It was just too. And then
Yeah.
the other one where they go to the same party as the daughter. He takes her to one party in New York City. It's. I think we talked about this. It's the same party her daughter. Like that needs an explanation. That is not. Those are two huge coincidences. That like Shauna must be very dumb, like not to think that either of these things are that strange. But then, yeah, it just seems like they were just
They were
coincidences.
just coincidences. Yeah, yeah, it's tough, right? I mean, I think with television in general and fictional narrative, well, yeah, fictional narratives, you have to like suspend disbelief and accept that whatever. Sometimes the writers
Well,
will introduce coincidences to throw you off the trail, and
they could have done
especially
it
I
better.
think for a show like this,
So here's what I would
yeah,
have done.
maybe they could have done it.
Yeah. So here's what I would have done. I
Yeah,
would have had her go to the hotel. I would have had her do this. Like this would have been psychologically more interesting too. She would have called him and she would have like done that thing where like a girl makes an excuse for calling someone, which was like not very plausible, but like tried to like make him think she wasn't interested, but she really was, and then get him over there, and then the story can be the exact same for everything else without the huge
yeah,
plot
but then
hole.
you don't have the mystery, right? Like the fact that she ran into him there keeps you in suspense about
Hmm.
what is who is this guy, what's his motive. It keeps you
I think
sort
he's
of intrigued
suspicious.
by
Yeah, I
him.
think he's suspicious. And if they could have drawn out that like when the daughter gets suspicious and like say he's not on the internet, blah blah blah, they could have drawn that out a little bit instead of making that all like I think that was all one episode where the daughter comes and then she kills him, or maybe it was two episodes. They still could have had a lot to make him, and even Shauna, like
Yeah.
Shauna was. It's funny because the daughter is Shauna never has this thing like why would he be interested in me? It's like her daughter who like is like, and then Shauna's like, it's hard for you to. So it would have been like maybe you could have had a thing where Shauna was like having her own self doubt, but she didn't. Which she was like, and confident in herself, and it wasn't like other people would see that as self delusion, but she wasn't self delusional. Apparently, he really did like her as much as she thought. She was
Yeah,
surprisingly.
that was a good. Yeah, that was a good call. I forgot about that. That the daughter was like, well, I don't know. The daughter was right in a way because he did know who she was, and that was part of what attracted him to her. So, you know, I guess the daughter wasn't wrong. Like she had good instincts there.
What
I don't know if Shauna was just like some random soccer mom. I don't know that Adam would have been like as interested in seeing her
Adam
again
seems pretty thirsty. I mean, he he lied about going to some art school, because he
because
he
he wanted to
hung out with
impress
the
her,
girl.
man. Yeah, he knew he wanted to impress her. Like she's,
Yeah, well, yeah,
how
he's
else was he
lying
going to
to.
win her over?
Yeah, he's and she seemed very not very emotionally broken after killing him. I mean, she seemed very indifferent to sort of having done it.
Yeah, but
I guess she's so
is
used
that
to skinning
because she has
rabbits.
experiences? Yeah,
Yeah,
she's probably killed someone before, right? I mean, that was interesting. So then Jeff, like he read her notebooks, right? Like he stole the notebooks and then put them back. I don't know. Jeff is it's interesting, right? He's kind of a dim bulb, but
yeah,
anyway, like he like read her notebooks, found out that she's done some horrible shit to survive when they were in the wilderness, still in love with her. I mean, in a way, like this whole show to me seemed like a I don't know, like there used to be the like these movies with Seth Rogen and these kind of like male fantasies of like some very average looking guy who like wins over the hot
yeah,
chick and like is well liked and everything. Like this seems to me to be a female version of that. Of like Shauna is like the female Seth Rogen of like Jeff is a very good looking man, right? For like a guy in his 40s. Like you see him shirtless multiple times. He's like
yeah.
good looking, handsome, in good shape, and then like she has him, but then on the side she has this this sort of rogue who she thinks is like an art student graduate who like is a mechanic and interesting and whatever. And yeah, it just seems like almost like a wish fulfillment thing there.
Yeah, it was like a female fantasy. It doesn't do. And also, I think that other woman, Natalie, like she has men chasing her, and she doesn't look good at her age. I'm sorry, and she's also got like these
Natalie.
men,
Oh,
who
yeah, but she's
are
a druggie though, right? She's like an
she's a druggie, but
alcoholic,
yeah, but
smokes
but
a
that
lot,
so
like
that makes her more
yeah, it's
attractive.
a
I
lot of
mean,
mileage.
that poor cop guy. I guess he had a crush on her from high
Oh
school,
yeah.
so he
Oh yeah,
liked.
yeah. That was kind of a
Uh,
yeah, yeah. He was what trying to fulfill a high school dream or something. Because
uh,
like yeah, I don't know. If that's true. None of
so
the yeah.
So okay, so what I was interested in was what would happen to Jackie. I thought that the opening scene they might have killed and ate Jackie. Um, they still might eat her.
Uh,
She died in a sort of anticlimactic way.
did
She
you
just
ever? You said last time we spoke, you were going to rewatch the pilot and try to
yeah
figure out who the girl was. Did you figure that out?
yeah. I went back and I watched not the whole pilot, just the opening scene, and
Yeah.
it did not look. Somebody was wearing Jackie's necklace, the one that was given to her in
Mm,
some later scene. But it wasn't. It doesn't look like Jackie. I mean, we know it's not. I mean, we think Jackie's dead now. Um, and so yeah, there wasn't really any. It didn't look like Jackie. I mean, but you can't tell perfectly. It's hard to tell. It's purposely done like that. But look, it's very elaborate.
okay.
Somebody trapped her. Somebody put the wooden the stakes, and they still might eat Jackie. They just didn't kill her.
Yeah.
She might be alive. I don't like when they make us think
Oh.
someone's alive and then bring them back, like that lesbian girl. They told her, we thought she was dead, but she
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. When she was attacked by the
yeah.
was
So
it
I
bear or
hope
something?
Jackie
Oh,
doesn't.
wolf.
Yeah, I hope Jackie doesn't like wake up and be like, oh no, I was just
That would
sleeping.
be very. I don't know. I
It's
feel like
just
this show is better than that. I hope this show is better. That would be very cheap.
well, when
A
they
very
when
cheap
they when they
ploy.
girl, they were gonna burn her in the pyre. Like they didn't check to see if she was still breathing. Like she just wakes up and
Yeah,
like,
check her
stop burning
pulse.
me alive. Yeah, you would hear someone
Yeah,
breathe. Wouldn't you breathe heavy? Like if you were in that situation, you're moving
yeah,
her, you don't feel her breath. Like you don't. That's the that bother.
yeah. That was a little odd. Yeah, that was pretty gnarly. But like, okay, so Jackie. I mean, the circumstances of her death were interesting. Like to me, it almost seemed like she was. I mean, she was behaving very strange, right? So when they're passing around those cups of like, this was the night that they all got like super stoned and
Yeah.
went crazy, and they were passing around these mugs full of food or liquid or soup or whatever. And Shauna passes it to Jackie, and then when Shauna turns away, Jackie pours it out. Like she stopped eating, right? Like, and then she started behaving very oddly, where she was like saying, once she discovered that Shauna was sleeping with her boyfriend by reading Shauna's journals, and she was telling, what's the older guy's name who she has sex with, the other teenage boy? You remember? I think I had it
Travis,
written
right?
down. Travis, yeah, Travis. So she has sex with Travis, and but like in order to convince him, she's like, oh, you're in love with Natalie. Well, that's stupid because whatever. Like we're all
Yeah.
just empty shells with nothing inside. Like there's almost like this element of planned suicide. Like I think
Mm,
she didn't commit suicide technically, but she was behaving in a way of like, not eating anymore, speaking in a strange way. Like she's also very obsessed with losing her virginity before she died, which is another reason why she sleep with
yeah.
Travis. So I wondered if
Ah,
she was sort of planning her own demise in some way.
uh,
Uh, what did
Yeah,
you think
and
about that?
yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like, if you start to get cold, if you're out there it starts to snow. I think you wake up and you can go in, right? It's not like the snow all drops at you at once and you're just buried, right? There's some gradual buildup, and the fact that she didn't get up, and didn't go in, I think is yeah. I think you're right. I didn't
Maybe
think
she
of
like
that, but
lost her will to live.
yeah,
Like she was probably like malnourished, right? She stopped eating, and she was just like in a very like dark psychological place, which is like yeah. So that was an interesting direction for her character. I didn't really expect that, but like I think everyone, like probably everyone was expecting Jackie, especially the night, right? Do you remember like, when they're all stoned and going crazy and hallucinating and whatever, and she's the only one who didn't take the drug. They're all like harassing her, and you kind of like I kind of expected them to start like tearing her apart, or one of them doing something to her and then the others
yeah.
cheering it on or something.
This is actually this mushroom thing. This is what I loved actually about the second half of the show. because I was like, how do you get to this place where these high school girls becoming like these, these monsters, these whatever, this tribal, whatever strange primitive religion thing that they're doing when they're wearing strange costumes and participating in cannibals. And if they start shrooming, then that makes sense. Now you see like the real, like the stuff that that they're going through when they're sober, and then you start taking shrooms, and they could be taking shrooms all the time, after this. You see the descent into madness, right? And you
Yeah,
see Lottie sort of emerge as this like prophetic figure who's going to be like they're the leader of these this cult apparently,
the
that's
Antler
going to
Queen.
establish dominance over the rest of the group. And you sort of see how like a primitive society, like how a religion can develop. It was done in like you just some real like stresses, plus you just add in some drugs and like interpersonal dynamics, and like you have this one charismatic figure, and she rises up and she like organizes the thing. You see it. It's like this is like primitive. This is This is like an anthropological study. And I thought that was really
Yeah,
good. And I was worried like how they were going to get to like the crazy scenes we see later. Now it makes perfect sense to me.
yeah, yeah. I thought that they pulled that off. It was well done. And I mean, one thing that was weird was that the next day, um, they are outraged upon learning that that they were eating mushrooms that were gathered by Misty. And this was weird to me because this means that all those girls thought that they were behaving that way because they were like buzzed on grape wine or whatever it was, or blueberries, or like they had some kind of fruit, right? And they were it was like fermented fruit that they were drinking,
Yeah, they
and
could have.
apparently they all thought that that was responsible for their behavior.
I guess that could poison you. I mean, that could play with your mind. If you don't do it right, I mean, who knows? Like, you don't know what like the
Yeah,
chemistry of this stuff is when you're doing this like moonshine in the forest.
yeah.
So
They
that's
needed they needed Jackie to die too because they needed a way for Lottie to take over as their new leader,
mm,
right? Because Jackie was the de facto leader before,
mm.
and she wielded sort of the most
But
like popular girl
she'd lost
power.
her status. But she'd lost her status at that point. She wasn't a threat
Yeah,
to be a leader. She
yeah.
was.
So they had to eliminate her because she still would have presented problems, I think, for Lottie if she stayed alive, right? Like she
Mm,
wouldn't have just allowed Lottie to take over because Jackie enjoyed the influence that she wielded, and she also like what I don't know. She was very much like took a disapproving position of them like doing
yeah,
drugs and chasing Travis and like nearly killing him, right? Like they almost killed Travis.
yeah.
If
Poor.
was it did Jackie save him? I don't remember this
Yeah,
scene
yeah,
when
yeah.
they had the knife to hit. Jackie
No, it was
saved his
Natalie.
life.
It was
Oh, it was
Natalie.
Natalie. Oh, that's right, Natalie. Yeah. Oh, interesting. So Natalie was the one who saved him, which I guess is kind of fitting because they
And
have
then he
their
gets
own
mad
sort
and is
of
like, I didn't need you, or like something like that, later. Uh,
yeah,
the Yeah, so Jackie would have been interesting. So yeah, I guess it would have been. So Lottie's going to emerge as leader. It would have been interesting to leave Jackie around as this sort of like deposed like regent. Like she was the old like of the group, and you could have imagined some kind of resistance forming to Lottie, gathering around Jackie, trying to draft her, and then having like this tragic end. Like that could have been a path you could have taken with the show.
yeah.
Um,
It would have been an interesting dynamic with Natalie too, right? Because Jackie slept with Travis,
mm.
and
Yeah, I
Natalie and
think they
Travis still
I think
have
they yeah,
feelings for
I
each
feel
other.
like, so much is satisfied, but I think they got rid of Jackie too early. I think there was a lot more that could have been done here, but, it's like sort of thing like, like sometimes shows like to kill off a main character in season 1. We knew she was dead, but we didn't know. Uh,
My guess is they're going to bring her back in some form, either like not just like oh she never died or like pulling a fast one on the viewer, but rather that they'll either do flashbacks with her or they'll have her appear as like a ghost in Shauna's
yeah,
imagination.
yeah.
Of like Jackie will say things, but it's meant to be oh Shauna's
Well,
imagining what Jackie
she's
would say
already a
in the
ghost.
situation.
She's already a ghost. She's
Yeah,
already there, and yeah, in her room, and they're talking. The
dude, that dream was creepy. I just remembered the dream before
Yeah,
Jackie died.
yeah,
Remember, like she's sitting in the chair. They give her the chocolate, and then there's the guy like lurking in the kitchen, and that was pretty trippy.
yeah. Who was that
That
guy?
was
Was
a
that
trippy
somebody you
scene.
know?
I don't know who that guy. Yeah, I paused. I couldn't recognize him. I wonder if he'll, if yeah, if he'll return later. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, that was
Oh,
very very dark.
Lottie. and then Lottie killing the bear was
Oh yeah.
cool. Do bears act like you're a woodsman, aren't you, from Northern California? Do bears act like
I've
this?
never seen a bear. No, I've never
You
seen
act
a bear
alpha?
like that. No, I don't think. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. It's possible. I don't know enough about it.
You establish
I
dominance, do
agree
they
though.
just
This
lay
scene.
down? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, is that what was going on there, or are we meant to believe that Lottie has supernatural powers? Yeah. If any of our viewers know about bear behavior, like tell us, is that actually something that could happen in the real world? Like, can
Yes.
you
And
just
leave comments, yeah,
approach
and
a
leave
bear
comments on my
fearlessly?
Substack,
Yeah.
by the way. Don't leave comments on YouTube. YouTube comments are a sewer, they're spam. My Substack is a good place to leave comments. So if you leave comments, do it at the Substack. Uh yeah,
And
the
so
bear,
if the bear, like, yeah, if you project confidence, like, will a bear,
will a
like,
bear
what will
lay
they
down?
do? I mean, yeah,
I've heard
and then
that
she just
the
stabs him. I
Yeah,
mean,
I googled. I've heard they'll run away. I've read that they could run away if you're like if you're strong enough, but if you're like intimidating enough. But I couldn't find anything about them laying down. Um, you're right, and so some of them say this bear just has brain damage, like they caught that one mentally disabled elk who's full of maggots. I guess is the why they're able. He's like the
oh
last left.
right,
So
yeah, that
they're
was
worried that
disgusting.
like yeah, that was disgusting. They're eating the maggots later, aren't they? Aren't they cooking them and eating them?
Oh, probably. I mean, yeah, you
Yeah,
can't really, like, what, you can't waste anything, I guess, in that environment. But that was, yeah, that
yeah.
was gross. Yeah, so
But it's,
yeah, is Lottie? Are we meant to believe that Lottie has supernatural powers, or are they keeping this ambiguous? I
yeah,
mean,
that's what I was
we
just
see
gonna
those
say.
scenes where she's a little girl and she, somehow sort of kind of predicts a car accident and saves her parents, but then she's taking these pills, right? Like the first few episodes, you keep seeing her take these pills, which I think are for
Oh,
schizophrenia, but then
oh,
she no longer takes them. And
great point.
so,
Yeah, great
is
point. Yeah,
she,
I
you know,
forgot about the drugs. She runs out of her medication. Oh, that's interesting.
uh,
Yeah, the
were they suppressing her
supernatural.
power?
Yeah, there's not. So the supernatural thing is interesting. I wonder if the supernatural exists in this universe. And the one thing was about the when Taysa was was like a werewolf. Was like so there. I thought there might be actually two Taisas or something. Like there was some like alternative universe Taisa who came and like ate dirt. But then it turns out she's just sleepwalking. I don't know if that's scientifically relevant, but at least there's not a non supernatural explanation for that. And so the Lottie stuff, I mean,
Yeah.
there
I mean, like,
you think there's not?
like split personality, or like, some kind of a, whatever, it's television, right? But some kind of a stylized version of dissociative identity disorder, or
It's supposed to be
I mean, I don't
sleepwalking.
know.
Yeah, it's supposed to be
Saying
sleepwalking.
sleepwalking, I guess. Yeah, yeah, okay, sleepwalk. I mean, she's eating dirt though, so it's like there's like multiple different disorders going on at once. But I mean, what's the alternative? Is like she's possessed by demons, or what's the supernatural explanation for like hanging out by the window and harassing your your 6-year-old son and eating dirt in front of him?
Yeah,
Like, what's the what's the logic of, of like whatever mystical forces there are giving rise
right.
to behavior like that? But I don't
Yeah.
know. I mean, either way, it's kind of silly. But I guess it's not so silly that it's whatever. So
Well, the
yeah,
bear
let's
behavior also,
yeah.
I'm worried. I'm wondering about actually sleepwalk. Is that a thing? Like, can you sleepwalk and eat dirt? Like, I don't know.
Well, there is a disorder where people will eat dirt, and there's a disorder where you sleepwalk, and I guess maybe she has both. Um, kind of playing around with the believability of how many different odd behaviors can exist in one
So according
person.
to this article I just Googled from screenrant.com, they said this is based on a real condition. It's based on a real life, blah, blah, blah. Uh,
Like Pico,
Tacity,
Pico, some
uh, let's see. The real life is known as geophagia, so that's eating dirt, known for
okay.
centuries. Stomach issues and nutrient deficiencies. They can one of the most, and then, however, blah blah blah, and then like so, does it happen with sleep? So, are they combining, or have people? Um, okay, so sleep is a sleep is a it's not a sort of a it's not a dichotomous thing. It's like it's not binary. It's like you could be sort of half asleep. I feel half asleep sometimes.
Yeah,
Um, and so
yeah.
I guess this is not the craziest thing in the world.
Yeah,
Um,
sure. I mean, I think like the show in general seems to play with the viewers. It's ambiguous, right? Like how much of this is due to drugs and hallucination and mental illness and things that can happen in the real world versus like whether there are mystical forces at play, whether Lottie really has powers, whether Thaisa is possessed. Um, and I think that's like maybe that's probably good, right? Like
yeah,
I wouldn't want it to be like overtly supernatural because that would make the show kind of silly. Um, but like keeping it ambiguous, just keep it interesting. I think like where you're not quite
yeah,
sure what's going
yeah. I
on.
agree. I
And
think this is another thing that the show does very well. The What about the death of the Christian girl, Anna Lee, well, something Lee? What's her? Laura Lee?
oh,
Laura Lee?
Laura Lee, yeah,
Yeah, that was her death also like broke out because Lottie was falling under this like Lottie was going to go on a different spiritual path. Lottie was like became like an evangelical Christian, I guess, and was baptized by Laura Lee. So it's like when Laura Lee was there,
oh yeah,
like she was going to be like the spiritual, leader, and maybe that would have made them that would have made things a lot calmer. They would have stayed off the drugs. But like her death opened up like this path for like paganism. It's like the religion. It was like she was like a potential religious leader, but she was gone. Like the religious history of this community sort of changed.
that is interesting. Yeah, she would have offered a sort of a competing spiritual path, or maybe Lottie would have just never taken over in the first place,
Yeah,
or ascended
yeah. Lottie was
to any
baptized. I
kind of
mean,
spiritual role.
Lottie was,
Yeah,
yeah, Lottie was under her influence. So yeah,
yeah, and then yeah, she died, which was yeah, I thought that was a cool scene. I mean, it was kind of sad, but I thought like they made it so that you almost believed that she was going to get away with it, right? Like she was studying, she took off. You're like, wow, it's actually working. She's actually flying this plane, and then
I
it
didn't
just
think. I
explodes.
thought she was finished.
That
I knew she
was
was. I knew.
yeah.
I knew she was done. You know why? Because the beginning of that episode, the opening scene. Remember when she bumps her head in the pool, and then like the
Okay.
guy with the pecs saves her life. Remember this? And he's got the cross around his neck.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
when they do this, when a show gives like a lot of prominence to like a backbench character, like suddenly gives them a lot of prominence, either they're building them up to push them further into like make them more important, or they're about to kill them off. And I thought
Oh,
Laura Lee,
interesting.
because she's not there in the future, I thought they were going to kill her off specifically in that episode. She was going to take the plane. I'm like, this, there's
Ah,
no way this works. She's going to die, and that was only because of the
yeah.
opening scene.
Yeah. Yeah. That is interesting. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, she was another like her and Jackie to me, like among the characters, represented somehow like a connection to the external world, right? Like because Jackie was the most popular, the prettiest one who I don't know, somehow she was just like an emissary from like the old society of like civilization. And then Laura Lee because like she was a devout Christian, and Christianity is like a reminder that there's another world out there. There's like this, like this is very much like what just another sort of an ambassador from the wider world. And now that they're gone, like these girls that very much have like this sort of self-sustaining community of like misfits and weirdos, right? Like Misty's crazy. You got Thaisa with her like whatever's going on with her possession. You have Lottie. I mean, Shauna's got a baby on the way, and she's kind of I don't know. Like I guess Shauna is like as an older woman, she's kind of a normal person, but at least when she's a teenager, she seems to be I don't know, just like kind of under the sway of other people. She doesn't seem to have like a strong character of her own. Um, which actually, that was something I want to ask you. Do you think that these girls, like, so a lot of shows will cast people as teenagers who are clearly not teenagers. Do you think like they look their age? Because I'm imagining these girls are probably actually in their early 20s, but do you think they look
I
like
am so
teenagers?
bad with ages. Like, I can't tell the difference between like, 12 and like 20. Like, I'm not good
Okay,
at
well, a
this.
couple days ago, I watched a clip from Power Rangers in the
Yeah.
1990s, and they're all supposed to be in high school. And like, the Green Ranger is clearly like 37 years old. Like,
Uh-huh.
I don't know. Like, you watch some of these shows where like, yeah, he's a teenager, and it's like, he's got a 5 o'clock shadow and he's balding. Um,
There are
but
teenagers with
these
5
girls,
o'clock
like,
shadows and balding. I was, yeah,
yeah,
it was pretty hairy,
yeah.
in high school. It's not.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
hard. It's really hard to. It's hard to tell. Like I don't know. Like I'm not. I don't hang around high
I mean,
schools.
okay, I
Like
guess
I
I
don't
did
know.
have. I mean, I had one friend who was like, yeah, but like, you know what I mean, right? So
Like
with these girls though, I think like
Young Natalie looks
Natalie
young.
looks
Yeah.
I thought
Shauna,
Jackie,
Shauna and Thaisa maybe look a little. I'm just going by height though. Like I think Lottie and
yeah,
Shauna and Thaisa look older, and
they
Natalie's
have like
short. So
very youthful looking features. I thought,
I think
like
that,
all of them
yeah.
actually look their age, which I guess
Are
makes it
they? I
even
mean,
more striking, right?
have you looked this up?
I
Are
mean, I
they? Are
thought they
they?
do.
Huh?
Oh, I think in real life they're. I mean, I didn't actually look up their ages, but actually, I don't mean I don't know. Like I'm assuming they're older, but I just want to say like they seem to have done a good job on the casting of like casting girls who actually look like they could be in high school rather than like doing the. I mean, there are some
Yeah.
other shows
Well,
who
they
do
have a
this,
sex
like
scene.
Gossip Girl or whatever.
Can you legally have like the Jackie Travis sex scene? Can you legally do that with under 18? I don't think I think you probably can't. I think they would legally have to
Maybe
be.
without like, I mean,
Well, the way no, the
yeah, I'm
way it
not
was done
sure.
in the show, the way it was done, they were like naked. Like they could have had they could you could have body doubles, I
Well, we don't
guess.
know if they were naked though, right? Because you never. I mean, there's no nudity,
I think
so
it was pretty. Let's see, Jackie from Yellowjackets, actress. Let's see how old Jackie is.
I'm gonna
Uh,
guess she's like 22. But
oh, you have a very
they,
specific. I have no idea. I have no intuition here. Her name is Jackie is Ella. Her name is Ella Purnell, and her age is 25. Whoa.
25. Wow. Okay.
So she was born
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
she was born in '96, ironically.
Yeah.
Uh,
But she has
so
huge eyes, right? Like she has neotenous features,
yeah,
which
like an
makes her look
anime
younger
character.
than her real age.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
Like
an
yeah,
anime.
exactly. Like a
Right.
cartoon.
Yeah. So she's
So
90. She's 25. So this was in 2001. Yeah, 21. So she would have been 24. She's British, apparently. She was born in London. Um,
okay.
let's look at young Shauna. Let's see who Shauna. Sophie Nalise looks like. Is that how you say it? Sophie Nalise. She's Canadian, and she is 22. Let's look at
Yeah.
young
That's
Natalie
yeah.
in.
Sounds
Let's see Natalie. That's the last one I'll look up. Let's see.
okay.
Sophie Thatcher. Okay. Miss Thatcher, also British. She was born in Chicago in 2000, so she's 21. So she was about 20 uh, when this show was made. So she's the youngest, but none of them are like. Why don't they get teen? Why don't they just get teen girls for these things? Is it like
Well, probably because it's hard to act, right? Like, I
uh,
mean, I think it would be hard to get like a collection
most of
of
them are in
like very
school, I guess.
talented
Yeah, not a lot of them are
17-year-old
just.
actresses.
Yeah, a lot of them are in school. They're not like dropping out. A lot of I don't think like the field of like kids who aren't going to school ready to uh, shoot a show is probably not as large. Um,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, finding child actors and everything. So yeah, I mean, I thought that they found, yeah, Travis too. Like Travis doesn't look like, he doesn't look like the Red Ranger, like some like much older guy. He looks like a 17-year-old kid, right? Like everyone looks their age, which I thought that was that's nice. It's nice to
well, they
see
could do
like
miraculous things with makeup.
actors.
Did you see the Irishman?
Yeah,
De Niro's
that
like
was
100.
good.
Yeah, De Niro's like 100,
Yeah,
and he
but
looks like
the makeup looked good, but their movements and everything were a little weird, right? Like the scene where De Niro beats up the guy outside of his shop, and it's like, he's clearly an old man
yeah.
impersonating
Yeah,
someone
but
much younger than
that's not the
himself.
point. The point is you can make people look.
Yeah.
You can't make them move better, but you can make so like that's not a worry for casting a
You
20-year-old.
can de-age someone, digitally de-age them.
Is it
Um,
digital or is it makeup for like the De Niro thing?
I thought a lot of that was both. I mean, they
Because
probably need
if
both,
it's
right?
makeup, like they should sell that. Like I don't know why people like don't do that for like job interviews and stuff. Seems like, or maybe it's too much work. You'd have
Right.
to like a
To
5 hour routine each day or something.
avoid ageist employers.
For
Um,
people like looking young, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah. The other thing was so Shauna's daughter. She has her boyfriend. This is actually in the first half, which I wanted to ask in the first half, which was he refers to Shauna as Mrs. S, right? And a lot of shows where there are teenagers, they refer to the friends, their friends' parents as Mrs. or Mr. So and so.
Uh-huh.
Did I bring this up with you before? Like, what did you
No,
call
I
when
don't
you
know.
were
I
growing
don't
up?
know
What
where
did
you're
you
going.
call your parents' friends? Did you say Mister and Mrs. or did you just say first name?
My parents have friends. I don't know if my parents had. My
Your parents
mom
didn't
had.
have friends.
Uh,
Neighbor, Eddie, grown people.
I think. No, I don't know. I actually don't know. I don't think I
So
talked to
so
adults.
so all of my friends when I was growing up, they insisted on first name, which was like even back then I thought it was weird, to be
Your
like
friends
a
insisted
teenager
on
or
first
like
names. Your friends would say, "I want to talk to
the
your
the
parents."
the the parents of my
Parents would.
friends. So instead
Yeah.
of saying like Mr. Smith or Mrs. Jones, it would be like, call me Jim or like call me Barbara or whatever. And like even but in TV shows, it's always like, Mr. and Mrs. So and so. It's always like these honorifics that they use to show respect. But in real life, I don't really
No,
know
actually, I
if
don't remember my
teenagers
parents' friends, but I remember my friends' parents, and it was normal. I think we said Mister, and maybe your West Coast is
your
maybe a little
friends,
different, but
yeah.
yeah, we said
Friends, parents,
Mister.
parents, friends. Yeah, either way. So you said
Yeah,
Mr. and Mrs.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Friends'
Maybe yeah,
parents. We
maybe
would never call them by them. It was disrespectful. If we were in school, we'd say, "Oh, how's Donna?" If someone's mom was named Donna, and that was like a thing to like make fun of them. Oh, Donna, I saw Donna last night, at the bar. Like it was just like like
Ah.
it was like a disrespectful thing. So we would never call them that to their face.
Oh, interesting. Okay, maybe it is a California. I wonder if this is like a regional thing or generational. But you and I are almost the same age, and yeah, I don't ever remember calling any adult other than
Yeah.
teachers,
No, it would be.
Mister or Mrs. So and so.
Yeah. No, it would be weird if someone's parents said, call me Bob or something. Yeah, that would have been weird. Growing
Yeah.
up. So
Okay,
yeah, I think
interesting.
yeah.
So that's
So this is
accurate then. So maybe it's just just a California thing or something like that. Um, yeah. So something that I noticed. The other thing is the I thought that so once again, so on Jackie's death, rather than killing her, which is kind of what I thought was where the show was going. I mean, by ostracizing her and then her dying as a consequence of that, that is actually like generally more consistent with female behavior, right? Where like the way that women wage warfare
mhm.
is through like gossip and social exclusion and
Yeah.
rejection and like freezing people out, whereas
Yeah.
the way guys
Literally
do it is just
freezing.
through like overt direct violence.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh, interesting. I
Literally
wonder if that was
freezing them. Literally freezing
literally
her out of the
froze her
group.
out. Huh.
But
That's
you
cool.
said
Yeah,
freezing.
I
You said
wonder if
freezing, not them. So let's not be. We don't have to be. It's not
yeah,
that.
but I wonder if
That's
the creators of the show. I mean, that is a clever portrayal of that. So yeah, I
yeah.
mean, I thought that was like an accurate depiction of like how a teenage girl in that context would end up dying. Right? It's not like all of her peers, you know, ritually murder her or something, but rather they're just like, you're not a part of us anymore. Like, what's wrong with you? And then
Yeah. I like
she's
this
isolated.
because yeah, it needs to be gradual. So, like I said about the shrooms thing, which I like, is because it sort of shows you the path towards everything going crazy. With this, it's like if they just started by killing someone and eating them, it would have been pretty strange. If someone dies and then they have to think, because the question is going to be, are they going to eat Jackie? That's going to be the question now because winter's here, they're starving, they have
Are they
no
gonna
other
dig her
food.
body up?
But they don't bury. Do they bury her? I don't think they bury her. They've
Yeah, what
already
did they
given
do
up.
with her? Did we see what they do
I
with
don't think
her?
so. I think Shauna just grabs her and is like, no, or whatever. And like she's just the body's there. Um and so
Right.
the question is going to become, and so this is going to be the first cannibalism. It's not going to be because of a murder. It's going to be because of the circumstance, which I get, which is how it starts. And then they could be desensitized. They could At that point they could start killing and eating people, I think. But
Huh.
it becomes very strange. I mean, like the opening scene in the pilot. I don't know how you get there because it's like there's this elaborate thing where they're like, someone has like trying to just like a hunter is like trapping some girl, then eating her. They go through all the problems of like putting this like mat and then putting all these things. And the other thing that's a little bit confusing is in the early in one of the early episodes you see this the symbol with the girls with the I like the fact that it was Jeff because that's solved, like there's no like ghost or something chasing them. But like in the opening scene you see that symbol before that symbol is there. That symbol is pre-existing in that woods.
We don't
Um,
know that for sure. That could have been done by like Lottie or someone before they relocate.
we see it on a tree in the distance. The first, we see it at one point in the tree, like soon after they land, and then we see it. Don't we see it on the floor um in the attic of the cabin, right?
Uh, yeah, but again, that could have been Lottie or someone. I don't
Mm,
know. I mean, I think it's meant to be unclear whether one of the
yeah,
girls is doing it.
yeah, it
I mean,
has.
it's possible that it predates them because my guess is that the girl we see in the beginning who's running, she's not an original member of that crew. Like they I think they start to run into other people in season two, which I mean that's good because it keeps
Hmm.
the show interesting. But like
How would they?
basically
How
they're
would they?
not alone.
How would they find other people
I
that are not
I don't
connected to
know.
them?
I mean, there may be like I mean, yeah, there are probably a bunch of different ways that they could introduce another crew, or like
Well, that would be.
another group of people that have been living there for a while, or like some like native indigenous group, or I mean, I don't really
What?
know,
It's
or like
Canada. Is it?
like a group of
This is
people
not. This isn't
who are
the.
trying
This
to like
isn't.
rescue them. There are ways to like. I don't think she's an original member. I mean, it's
Uh,
possible, but yeah, I think they're going to start
indigenous.
seeing others.
Indigenous.
Yeah, I
She's
guess they
white.
couldn't really do that. They couldn't depict a bunch of white girls like chasing like an aborigine or
I
something
think the girl who
and
gets
eating
killed is
her.
white. I mean, there are no lost Aborigine tribes in in Canada, or at least,
I don't
especially,
know.
yeah, yeah, there aren't, and they're not in the, they're not like in this, they're not like in the, like at the north, they're not at the Alaska. By the way, I thought it was
It could be
I
like a lost tribe, or it
thought
could
they,
just be people who are like camping. Like it literally could just be
they
like
could
a
just
sort of a
be
relatively
campers.
isolated.
Yeah, I like that
It
idea.
could just
I
be
think.
like regular people who got lost, who were camping and lost their way back to the trail, and then like
No, that
there
would
are
be. I mean,
ways
that
I
would be
think
too big. It would be too big of a coincidence. And other people got, like, they're both lost in the middle of nowhere. They run into it. That would be too big. That would be too big of a coincidence. I don't think you could. I don't think you could do
a
that.
campsite.
They could kidnap, like, people from, like, or something, like, while they're shrooming or something. I don't know, like something strange like that. I thought it was, by the way, like the decision of whether to stay in the cabin or to go south. I thought that was an easy decision. I thought they needed to go south. Like, why did they
Hmm,
not? Why did they not do that? Like, that seems to me very dumb. Like, it was only
yeah.
Thaisa who wanted to do that.
Yeah, I mean, Taissa does seem to be like the most bold among, which it fits with her character, right? Because she becomes a politician later and is supposed to be like
Yeah.
the sort of strong leader person. Whereas, yeah, like none of the others seem to be like particularly risk taking or enterprising. And I mean, yeah,
No, no. I
that
mean,
makes
when
sense
they're
to me.
girl, they're girl.
They would want to be like very
I
risk
think they're
takers.
enterprising and risk taking for girls. I mean, I do think, like, Natalie is pretty, uh, is pretty. I think they're female soccer players, right? So they are relatively, active, young females.
Yeah,
Um,
but they're still like teenage girls in a
yeah,
scary situation,
that's what I'm saying.
and
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So
yeah,
they don't make them super bold. I like that. It's a sort of, it's got this realistic aspect. But yeah, I would just go south, and I would, and, like, especially if they go together, they can they have a gun. I mean, I don't know. I think they should
they
have.
have
I
a
think they
gun.
should have just gone.
They
I
do
think
have
they
a
should have
gun.
just gone south. Yeah, they kind of gun. They could shoot all the
Yeah,
wolves.
dude,
Have
how
you
has the
heard, by
coach
the way, that
survived this long?
have you
Hmm?
heard, by the way, that animals now, like, if you go to a forest and there's a human voice, like, I saw, like, a PBS thing, they would just, like, put a recording of, like, a human voice in the forest. All the animals clear out because animals have all evolved anywhere close to nature to be scared to death of humans. Because if you mess with humans, you're done. So, like, the wolves, maybe the wolves are
Um,
too far from civilization to have that, to have that fear. But you as a human, you do have good odds in the woods because you just talk and everyone is all the animals are afraid. They know not to mess with
I
you.
mean, that makes a lot of sense, right? Like, probably anywhere, yeah, anywhere in the world. Over time, the animals who weren't afraid of humans were very quickly
Yeah, if you're a
eliminated.
mountain lion and you're
So
like I live here in California, there's a lot of coyotes. Like, they never attack a human. You never hear about. You see them walking down the street. They just walk. They walk past you. Um, and so
yeah,
they evolved not to mess with humans. There's, cougars, like,
apex predators.
yeah,
Yeah,
right. So
humans are
yeah,
apex predators. So yeah, which is what the show, I mean, like portrays, right? Where like they're literally hunting other humans for meat, and Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Lottie
Okay.
is still. We know Lottie is still alive. Lottie probably killed Travis. You know what I was thinking? So this is funny. The Thaisa, the politician thing. I asked somebody in politics, like when Thaisa has like a press conference to want to drop out of the race. I was actually like, this is I thought it was a Senate race at the beginning, and then realized it was a state Senate race. And I'm like, would
Yeah.
reporters come out for like a state Senate seat, like in like a press conference like this? My friend in politics said no. They know that's not realistic. So like she's not that important. She's going to be a state senator. State senators are not that big of a deal. But I was thinking that we're going to see her rise politically. I think that might be a thing. They might be setting her up to become governor or senator or Kamala Harris or something like that. Um,
President.
and then Lottie is going to be the sort of the right wing equivalent of this. She's going to be some kind of cult leader. She's going to be like, do you know about the Reverend Moon cult? So there was
No.
a South Korean guy who was like imprisoned by North Korea. He started a religion called the Unification Church. Actually, I think like they started the Washington Times or something like that, and became influential among the American right. Was into like fighting communism during the Cold War. Abe's assassin actually killed Abe because his mom fell in with this. The guy apparently his mom fell in with this church, and he thought Abe was like a supporter of this church. I don't know if that was true or not. So this is like
Wow.
it's like a so Reverend Moon was like sort of a religious slash sort of political figure in the U.S. But a right wing one associated with the conservative side, anti-communist. And I think like I'm just making things up. I think Lottie could be like like a rival to Thaisa.
Like a political rival, like
Maybe
actually,
political slash spiritual.
like
Maybe I don't know if she's going to be political, but she's gonna. I think she'll be somebody in society.
or she could just like threaten to expose everything they did when they were in the wilderness, and that
so
could
she could be.
potentially
So she could
thwart
be no. You saying
Thaisa's
she could be?
plans.
She could be nobody. She could just be somebody who's like extorting them, rather than like emerge out of this thing as like a real cult leader who built something. That's what I think. That's what I think happened
That
to
would be
her.
fascinating if that's the direction this took. Like, yeah, I guess it depends on the scope, like how
Well, she
big this show
well,
wants to be.
Well, she apparently
Right.
it looks like she probably killed Travis. So she had like the tool, like she was the one who emptied out his bank account. So she had the tools, the ability to kill a man and like
Oh
hang him
well,
up.
someone they kidnap Natalie in the motel room
Yeah,
at
yeah.
the
So
end,
she
right?
must
Like,
have.
there's
Yeah. So
these
she's not
weirdos
a.
who are wearing like these, I don't know, whatever, these kind of religious garb or something, cult like
Yeah.
outfits, and they kidnap her. So maybe like, yeah, maybe Lottie is like a, I don't know, like a Jim Jones type like cult leader who wields like global power somehow. But then like, wouldn't this have come up by now? Where like, one of the other characters would have been like you don't hear about Lottie from any of the adult characters, which I
Maybe
guess
it's
is like
maybe.
fine. Maybe they're trying to keep it a
Yeah.
mystery.
Yeah, maybe Lottie was like did some bad things to them, and they sort of if they don't talk, they don't want to talk about her if they
They have
they
like
don't
a
have to
code of
like
silence.
yeah, like so apparently they didn't really keep in touch with all like they apparently don't want to remember all of this, um and so yeah they only really meet to talk about like the things that the letters that they got, the postcards, so maybe they don't
Okay.
consider Lottie. Yeah, they consider Lottie as who knows. There's a lot of interesting possibilities here. And Misty is I think Misty is with Lottie. Like when Lottie does that sacrifice, what is it, the bear heart? They put the bear heart in that on that altar or whatever, uh
Yeah.
and Misty is there.
Oh, there are
And then,
two girls. Yeah,
yeah,
Misty's
and
one of
who's that
them.
other girl? I don't know that other girl's name. She's like a very minor character, but she sort of
Yeah,
looks
I
like
don't know.
she's a brunette. I don't know. She doesn't do much. She was cooking. She was the one cooking when Misty put the
Hmm.
shrooms in. So I think that's the core. So we see Misty like later, like wearing a thing and eating. So maybe like that's the core of
Dude,
the.
Misty. Oh, Misty killed that investigator woman too, right? Poisoned her cigarette.
Yeah,
That
I knew
was
she was gonna let her.
Misty
How
is
did she?
hardcore, man.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, Misty was the one that reason they got stuck out there in the first place. She really is the.
Oh yeah, that's true.
She's
She
really is the
destroyed
villain.
the flight recorder. Yeah, she's a
The
wild card.
the. Yeah, how did that girl? How did that lady she tied up go to the bathroom?
How did she go to the bath? Oh yeah, I don't know. Maybe she had. Well, she's a nurse, right? She might have one of those like pots, what do they call those?
Yeah,
Bedpans or something.
yeah, but
I
yeah,
mean,
she put it under, and then
Misty would have been like familiar with dealing with human
ah,
waste. So,
yeah, interesting. Okay,
you know,
that's a good point. I was wondering about, yeah, that woman was Thaisa's like agent, right? Um,
something like that, like a private investigator or something like that, trying to dig up dirt. And yeah, Misty, Misty just like chained her up,
yeah,
dude. Like crazy.
yeah, and Misty doesn't know. Misty doesn't know that she's working with Thaisa, right? Like Thaisa
Oh,
hires them.
right.
She never finds out. Thaisa hires her.
And they're all friendly with each other, right? Because Misty helps Thaisa and the others get rid of the body.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Although
Thaisa doesn't know that Misty had this.
yeah, but Natalie, they don't, but they're not, no, they're not friendly with Misty. Misty only knows Natalie. Natalie, they get Natalie to get Misty, and Misty only shows up to clean up, poor Adam. Um, the
Yeah.
I thought that I think every scene of like a murder cleanup or like cover up is always so ridiculous. Like these women are like coming in and out of this dude's apartment. They're not like keeping their voices down. They're like yelling at each other. I thought that was another potential potentially not very a case of not very good writing. It's always with the murders. Every murder that's covered up in basically a show, I have this feeling like it should have been much easier to get caught than this.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably true. I mean, I wonder if they'll get sloppy and end up leaving traces behind or evidence or something along those lines. But yeah, they were
Yeah,
all like fairly calm. So like they were all clearly had experience with death and
yeah.
with murder and
So
so
before Natalie got kidnapped, like it was at the last scene of of the season, or one of the last scenes of the season. I
I think
thought that
yeah, that
maybe
was
I thought they were just going to end the 2021 storyline. I thought that was the end of it because there was nothing else. I thought it was just like Travis killed himself. All the mysteries were solved. Who was extorting them? There wasn't really anything until the Lottie thing pops up in Lottie. So obviously we're gonna stay with this timeline. Um, and yeah, this is good. I wonder what's going to happen to the men. I mean, I wonder, we still who's still like we don't know what's going to happen to them. We don't know about Javier. We don't know about the coach
oh
without the
yeah,
leg.
Javi went missing.
We don't know about the third
Yeah.
girl from Lottie's crew.
Dude, they're gonna eat the
We don't.
coach, right? He's the weak link and he has the most
Yeah,
amount of meat on him.
we don't.
So
He's got the most amount of meat on him.
and
And
he's not
he's
like one of
retarded.
them, right?
Well,
I mean,
they're not
he's
getting.
maybe they yeah.
Yeah, and
Why
he's
would they want him
useless. I mean,
around?
he's useless, right? And
But
then
can they kill a gay character in their show? I mean, that would be,
oh, well,
I
yeah,
mean, that would be
Thais, but we don't know
Disney.
what's going to happen to Thais' girlfriend. Speaking of gay characters, um, the woman Thais is married to in the future, is that the other black girl from the
I
1996?
that yeah, I couldn't tell. They don't really talk about it. That's kind of weird, right? Because the Thaisa's wife
Oh
is not
yeah,
like
so it's probably
involved.
not. Yeah,
Yeah, she's
she's
not
never like,
involved in anything.
yeah.
They never talk about the experiences and
Yeah, yeah. Well,
yeah,
no, I mean it's even more than that because Thais is like, when I was out there, this and that happened, and it's never like, oh yeah, I was out there too, and I remember like that. So they
yeah,
must have
that's
she must have met her. She must have met her.
two
So we don't know
different.
what's going to happen to that black girl too. So there's these minor characters. Uh, the is
But they
there
may flesh
the
out later, right? Like the
yeah,
show may expand on these characters and build them up somehow to you
yeah,
know make the show more interesting.
yeah. So
So
I think coach is probably the most prominent. The assistant coach and Javier are probably the most important people that we know of, the most prominent people now that we don't know what happens to them. Um, yeah, which is, yeah, you're right. They could flesh them out and then we could see something. Yeah, it's exciting. So season two, have you read anything about I've heard season two is
no,
coming. We don't know when, but it is coming.
yeah, I mean it's yeah. I know they renewed it. I haven't seen any other. I mean, apparently the writers have mapped this out all the way till season three. I read an interview somewhere about this.
Has it been
So
renewed
it
to
seems
season
like
three?
they're I don't know if they've renewed it to season three, but the writers have they have stories in mind, like they know like what roughly what direction they want to take it, and so yeah, I mean, I'll keep watching it. I mean, I think it's a great show. Surprisingly good, right? Like there are so many ways this could have been a stupid show, and they
Mhm.
did it.
Oh,
They did it
yeah.
well.
I
So,
thought Laura Lee was I don't did we talk about this? I thought Laura Lee was gonna try to save Tessa's baby. Like they're gonna try to do not Tess, Shauna's baby. They were gonna do an
oh
abortion, and then
right,
she would be like, "God would not want you to do that." And she could have judged them for the gay
yeah,
stuff
that's a big
too. But she
mystery. What's hanging over them? Like what
Yeah,
they're gonna
yeah, the
do with
kid.
this
Yeah, we don't know
baby?
the baby. We don't know if it's gonna be born alive. We don't know if they're gonna eat it. We don't know if it's like it's still
Yeah,
alive in the future. Like you don't know anything.
stillborn. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
That's we have no idea. And Shauna, as an adult, we never hear Shauna talk about what happened. So that's another looming mystery.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, they have some things that are still yet to uh, unfold. What do you think? Did we talk about the part about when Natalie and Travis and they were like, like, oh, why can you why is it okay for a man to have a lot of women and not for me to sleep with a lot of guys? Did we talk about this?
We briefly touched on it, and yeah, Natalie was like, "I've only ever been with two guys," which was, I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, yeah. And
like
we
that's
and
so funny. Like that's actually a meme of like a girl saying to a guy she's about to sleep. I've only been with two guys. Like that's like it's a meme.
yeah.
But he's a kid, so I guess he would have bought it. Yeah, he doesn't know any
Yeah,
better.
yeah. I remember we talked about that, and we said this could have gone. It was like sort of not that woke because she was, she was. It was like she's like, yeah, it sucked too. It sucked anyway. I mean, she wasn't, it
Yeah,
wasn't
she
like
talked about sleeping with some older guy at a concert, and she said it wasn't fun, and it was an interesting. I mean, like that was like a nice encapsulation of like the whole argument about double standards, right? About like, well, I should be able to sleep around and do the same thing a guy does, and it's like, well, how'd it go for you? And it's like terrible, like of
Mm,
course, right? Because if you're a 16-year-old boy and you hook up with some chick at a concert, it's the greatest day of your life. And
yeah,
if you're a 16-year-old girl, you do the same thing. It's gonna suck. It's
yeah,
terrible. It's a
yeah.
terrible
I wonder.
experience, but
Yeah,
so they portrayed
if
that in
this
a very
was.
honest way.
I wonder if this was made after Dobbs, if the abortion storyline would have been a more sort of,
Oh,
the preachy thing. Yeah, they're good. I mean, the show is good at avoiding the current thing. It's in the current day, but there's not a lot of current thing in it, and
yeah.
that we can be thankful. And for a show with all women, I mean, that is hard to. That is hard to do. I mean, you would expect, like, actually, the
Yeah.
men, if anything, the men are like disposable. They kill that poor Adam, who's just, pining over this older woman. The other guys, like, the men are not like, the men could be like predators in these situations and like push the women around. They don't. If anything, the women push the men around. Like they're about, Travis is like insecure and unperforming sexually. He's about to get,
Yeah.
slaughtered like during the sacrifice. So the men are like weak and pushed around and not the,
And Jeff too. Jeff is very
yeah.
much like
Oh yeah, yeah. He's just a poor
he's
guy.
kind of a bumbling fool. Yeah.
It's so funny. Like, oh, furniture business was going under, and I had to get in with the mob. It's like
Got involved with loan sharks.
this
Yeah.
local furniture business, and yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, oh,
He's
oh,
kind of
oh,
like
what's funny? By the way,
book club.
the class and education thing when they were talking with Shauna and Thaisa as adults were talking, and Thais is like, I would go to, my life would be different. Like Shauna's like, I would have gone to Paris. I would have majored in English at whatever. What was it, Dartmouth or Brown, whatever she got
She got
into.
into Brown.
Uh,
Yeah.
and then Thais is like, I would have gone to Howard. Did she say Columbia Law School? And then,
Columbia Law.
finish first in my class in Howard, yeah, and then go to Columbia. I thought that was, yeah. I think they
Well, then Shauna replies, "You actually did this, right?"
yes,
Like,
exactly.
Shauna
So
was
when
like, "You
we,
did all those things." And like it's funny, like I mean, the show isn't woke, but it does have like a lot of the sort of typical media tropes of like somehow we're supposed to like feel. Maybe one thing the show repeatedly stresses is how Jeff and Shauna have like this sort of small, unassuming, like kind of sad life, and it's like no, like they live in the suburbs. They're married, they have a kid, like they have like a decent life, right? But the show portrays it as like this oppressive, terrible thing, which a lot of shows do, right? Like television shows and movies love to portray suburbia as like a softer version of hell. And it's
yeah,
like if you grew up poor or like not in the suburbs, like it looks nice. Like it doesn't look like a
but,
bad life
yeah,
to like
but
have a
who's
spouse and a good job and a kid and to
Yeah.
not live around criminals, right? Like it's not a bad life.
Whose life is good in like as adults. So Natalie's a drug addict. She's terrible, miserable.
Yeah,
Thaisa is
her
like
life
super
sucks.
ambitious power lesbian couple. You think maybe they would portray, if they were woke, they would portray that as more positive, but they have more problems at home than anyone else. Um,
Well, I mean, arguably, Shauna and Jeff have more problems, right? Because they think, well, Shauna thinks he's cheating, and then she decides
Well,
to
they're both.
cheat,
I
and
mean, they're both bad. I mean,
yeah,
Shauna, the wife of Tyson, like walks out over the political thing. So Shauna and Shauna and Jeff actually have a deep love. Actually, I mean, when it comes down to it,
yeah.
it's a
At the
and
end, they brought it back around, and you can
no,
tell
but
that Jeff
yeah,
really cares about
And Jeff just
Shauna, and
because, like, you think Jeff is just an absent husband who's cheating on her, and he ends up being just like a great guy. This is why this is like a sort of a, it's not a anti male show, but it's like more anti women and more pro men than anything.
interesting.
So yeah,
Okay,
uh, you don't think so? I mean, every man is like, so Adam is just like this innocent guy who loves this woman and gets killed by her. Jeff is like victimized by her too. Travis almost gets killed. He gets murdered by Lottie maybe later, but he almost gets killed by
yeah,
Lottie when he's young.
okay. I think,
Coach has to fight off like this lecherous Misty who wants to, sleep with him, and he has to like
yeah, she's a
survive on this.
predator.
Yeah,
She's literally a
every man
predator to
is like
him.
a victim of women in this show.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I think calling it pro male is a little bit of a stretch, but it is a show that very much shows like the moral complexities of women, which is rare, right? Like so many shows portray
Yeah,
like men is all bad or women is all good or whatever, but this show is like, yeah, okay. In a sense, there's no overtly bad males,
and
so
even
I guess in,
Natalie.
in that sense, you could say it's a pro male show
Yeah.
because none of the men are evil. Are there? I don't. Yeah, I can't think of any of the male characters who are like, this is a bad guy. This is a bad like
Yeah,
Misty
and
is
even
clearly like
the
not
cop with
good.
Natalie, like the cop like really likes her and wants to have a relationship with her, and Natalie's like pushing him away and insulting him. Every
Yeah,
male character is Jeff. I mean, like what Jeff did, like extorting his wife's friends. Again, that's not good. I think we're supposed to
Richard, do
care
you think
more.
this show could be made if could this show be made with men or males? Right? Like, could this show? How would this show be if it was a crash landing male high school soccer team plot more or less the same? Could they pull that off? Right? Like I don't know, Lord of the Flies, but the sort of modern updated version with boys. I don't know if the
Could they
show would be
pull it
as
off? Like,
compelling. Like,
could they pull it off as
would
like?
it be equally interesting? Would you care? I
Oh, of
feel like
course.
somehow like making it girls makes it somehow more interesting, whereas with boys, I don't know.
No, I
Yeah,
mean, well,
yeah,
look,
yeah.
Lord of the Flies. I've never read it, but it was a very people found it
It's a
compelling. I mean, it was an
classic.
interesting. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
a classic book. So yeah, it all depends on the writing and the actors. I see no reason why it couldn't. It would have
yeah.
to
I
be different.
think yeah, and like the adult version of these guys, and I think like one reason why this show is interesting is because we have this bias where we default to this belief that women are like naturally morally good, and there's like interesting psychological research on this you may have seen of like basically people just naturally assume like the women are wonderful effect is what some papers call it. And so the fact that like these women do evil things and that they went through this traumatic event together and so on, like somehow it makes it interesting. Whereas like with guys, you often assume that they are already like morally compromised in some way. And then when they go through this event, I don't know. I just feel like it wouldn't be like an interesting origin story for like why they turned out to be fucked up. But
Mm,
maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking it. You're
well,
right.
I
Lord of the
mean,
Flies was
I mean,
it's a
like
classic.
they could start out as like nice Boy Scouts or something, and they could develop into something. Now, something
Ooh,
could
okay.
be yeah, they could be a church group. I mean, you could make them good somehow, right?
Yeah, like yeah, I
Uh,
think the Boy Scouts idea would be interesting, or like
yeah.
yeah, some kind of religious,
Well,
yeah.
what would be really interesting, and this could go in either direction. In either a very very interesting or maybe really bad direction. Is if you had if you had a real mixed group. This is sort of a mixed group, but it's not really. It's almost completely female. There's a few men. If you had a mixed group and you had like That would be interesting. Like that would be interesting. I think it would. I think it would turn into like a woke thing probably. But if you were able to do it and not make it like a woke thing, and even like a realistic portrayal could be you could satisfy the wokes because you can portray the men as like predators and like sexually take trying to take advantage of. That's realistic. I wouldn't say that that was a woke show. I would say that's a realistic show. But then you'd have men who have better instincts, and you could have like rivalries based on this. That would be interesting. Like it would have to be unwoke because the women would have to sort of be passive in the they could like there would have to be coalition of males because the men have the overwhelming advantage in violence, and women would have to use like sort of emotional appeals and like manipulation and stuff like that to survive. I think that so hopefully you wouldn't make it into like a thing where like the women are like fighting the men on equal terms. But if there was like a great director who was like somebody who was very talented, they can make something I think very interesting with a mixed sex group.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. That would be interesting too. But yeah, I think it's the way that they did this, right? Of like, yeah, to create a show where
Oh,
it centers on a bunch of women and there's no there's no wokeness, and
there's a
it,
little.
it
I mean,
makes sense.
Thaisa
It's so
when she
clear.
tells off the white liberal lady who's like you don't get my
Yeah, but then
story.
it's not woke because like that white liberal lady is like I think a lot of shows would have made her out to be like a better person than she was, but she was clearly using her money to so like in a way you don't really feel bad for her, and I don't know, I thought they okay, like it does adhere somewhat to like progressive
Yeah. No.
ideology,
I
but
think we might have talked about this before. The
everything in the
fact that
show makes sense and within realities, like reality on realities
yeah,
terms.
I think
So
we talked about this before. The fact that Thaisa's like she's a politician and she's a lesbian. And that's not even like an issue. She's not like, oh, he's going to attack me for being lesbian. It's like portraying America in 2021, or at least New Jersey, as like 100%. Like, there's no difference between heterosexuality and homosexuality, right? And she's, so there's no discrimination at all. And she's also running against this, I guess, this probably white male. We never see him, but he's probably I think he's like the Republican or whatever,
an
and
evil
he
Republican.
and like there's no thing like race. Oh, like when he shows her as cannibal, like you could imagine if like MSNBC saw that scene, they would be like, this is a racial dog whistle. Like he's portraying the black woman as like a cannibal.
Racial dog was,
Of
yeah,
course. No,
yeah, that's interesting.
they've gone with much less, trust me, they've gone with much less than that as far as like a coded racial appeal. So if like
Yeah,
MSNBC or CNN was like watching this political race in the show, it would be all about race. And it was never like, oh, he's doing something racist. He's playing to white privilege or anything like that. So it's these sort of opportunities to sort of be woke where the show is not woke. That I
yeah,
think is even in some ways it makes it like it's like too far from reality because like some people would be talking about like sort of the racial dog whistle there. I think a Republican would be like afraid to do that. So uh yeah we yeah this is this is a good show, especially the abortion thing. I'm you could do the abortion thing without like you know like preaching about it. I think is also very very interesting.
yeah,
So
yeah.
we
I'll be curious to see where they go with that. But anyway, all right, Richard, should let you go
yeah
then. It's been good,
yeah
and yeah, let's do Severance soon.
All right, if I can tolerate Severance, we'll do Severance. All right, good talking to you, Rob. Get
Yeah,
better.
keep me posted. All right, I'll see you.